Hey, everybody. Welcome to Hope Unabridged. I'm Angie Elkins.
And I'm Casey Brennan.
And we are thrilled that you are here today. We are interviewing author and speaker Lisa Whittle about putting Jesus over everything in our lives, just making him a priority. Right, Casey?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as easy as it sounds.
No, there's so many distractions. There's so much outside noise. It's hard. Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, I think we all have this desire to do that. For sure, it's a priority, but it's hard to really simplify and keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all heard that. It can be hard sometimes. So I'm kind of interested to hear what Lisa has to say about just simplifying, paring down, and making it a priority. So
I love it.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Lisa is a wife and mom of 3. She's written 7 books and almost finished her 8th. She is a speaker and host of the Jesus Over Everything podcast. Lisa is also passionate about training and equipping and encouraging other ministry leaders and does that through a ministry entitled Called Creatives. Her latest book, Jesus Over Everything, is all about making him a priority in your life above all else. So, Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. It's good to be here.
Well, it's great to have you here. So I just mentioned all the things you do in ministry. I'd love to know, what is your very favorite?
Oh, gosh, that's hard. I have to pick between all my children, right? Well, I mean, I consider my family ministry, so I would have to say that. I think I get really passionate about what I'm doing currently at the moment. Of course, I love the podcast. But ministering to other leaders is really, I feel like, the call of my life. So to me, pouring into the leaders, not just, next generation leaders, but the leaders of right now, to strengthen them for the long haul. Because as you know, we've got leaders that are burning out and quitting, and I want us to keep going. And so I think that would probably be my driving passion.
So Jesus Over Everything is such a simple concept, Lisa, but tell us, what does it practically look like to put Jesus over everything in our lives?
Yeah, I think things that are simple that doesn't mean they're not going to be difficult, right? It's things that are simple in theory, at least. It looks like a lot of things. It looks like, dying to ourselves, which, as we know, that's not easy at all. It looks like the priority order. That is something that we talk about throughout all the book. And what I really try to do is show us in our life what priority order looks like. It's kind of a this or that choice that it comes down to. And it's not adding on to our daily life. It's, you already make these decisions. So it's coming down to these decisions that we make in our daily life, and which way will you go with it? And in those decisions, you choose your priority. And so that's really what it's all about. It's the priority order that you decide on every single day as you go through your life.
Yeah. You talk a lot about the deadly overs in your book, and how we over-explain, we overthink, we do all these things we overdo. Tell us a little bit more about that and how that really affects us in a negative way.
Yeah, well, those things are kind of go-to behaviors, right? So we find out that we feel like our life is complicated. That's the feeling that we have every single day. I think we can all agree upon that. Our life is complicated. So we grasp at these go-to behaviors to try to simplify our life. So we get into this weird relational moment, for instance, and we try to over-explain why we can't go to someone's party, or we try to overanalyze why someone didn't text us back, or, we over-apologize for, any number of things. We do it all the time.
Yeah.
And we do this to try to, simplify our life. We're trying to gain back some control. We're trying to uncomplicate things. And what happens is, if anybody's ever done this, they know that it really just complicates things more. And so it's our way of trying to manage our own life and trying to do what we know how to do. And so I talk about that in chapter 1, about it's really living what I call in the land of the deadly overs, rather than putting Jesus over these things and over everything. And I take us through how to do that and all that in the book. but it really is sort of deferring to ourselves rather than deferring to him. And my premise is that when we put him over all the things, that other things fall in place. And it's not that our life becomes perfect, because that's not true. We know that from the Bible, but it does become less complicated. And so that's my pitch, because I truly believe, and I've watched it happen in my own life, that it is a mixed up priority order that is really what is ailing us more than anything else.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It sounds like you're saying it's a control issue for us, right?
Well, I wouldn't argue that. I would definitely say, yeah. And I think it becomes even more of a control issue because that's what we grasp at, right? So we feel, that we feel like our life is very complicated because it is complicated. I mean, our life is complicated. But in that complication, our solution is, let me maintain some type of control. Let me grab some type of control. And so that's why we think, oh, let me go to like a closet cleaning system. Let me go to sort of a new calendaring system. And it's not like those things won't help for a minute. Like, you might be on time more that way. Your closet might be great. I'm not suggesting that a new organizational system won't be fantastic for you. What I'm saying is it won't help you long term. And that's not ultimately what's really ailing you. What's really ailing you is Jesus is not where he belongs. And it's the system of order that he created. So it makes sense that it's the only way it'll work. And I'm just a practical person, and I like to do things at work. And so I just dug in the Bible and I said, what do we need to do, Lord, so our lives become less complicated? And this is what I believe he showed me.
Oh, that's good.
That's so good.
Can you talk about a moment in your own life when you realized that Jesus wasn't your priority?
Which one do you want? I could give you about 20 million. I think there have been certainly certain moments where it's become more clear than others. Anytime that I feel like things definitely aren't working, that's now what I immediately look at first. Where's Jesus? Where do I have him? Because I know that things wouldn't be this much in disarray if he were where he belonged. Certainly, I would say one of probably the most prevalent moments, and I talk about this in the book. In fact, I really kind of opened the book talking about this, is when my shopping was out of control.
Oh, yeah.
And I went on a 1-year shopping fast. And, that might sound really extreme. And also to some people that might sound like over spiritual or super noble. But the reason why I did it, there were many reasons as I detail in the book, but I did it because this is what it came down to. I thought, wouldn't it be dumb if at the end of the day, this habit that I've had, that I've looked at to try to make myself feel better, overindulgence, which is one of the deadly overs. Wouldn't it be dumb if that was coming between what I really want in this vibrant relationship with God? And it was overcomplicating my life. And I knew it was, because my closet was overwhelming me. And I could do a Marie Kondo system and it would help for a little bit. But if I didn't get to the root of it, then I was going to have this problem in 5 more years. And so that was certainly a moment that would stand out.
Oh, man, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Like so much, especially right now in quarantine pandemic life. Like I spend so much time putting things in my cart, and like maybe I buy them sometimes. Sometimes I buy them and it's not great. But oh my gosh, the overindulgence. I feel so convicted right now.
Well, I think that's a great point, because shopping is not one of those things that we typically think of as a sin.
No.
We just think of it as, I probably shouldn't do that. It's just one of those kind of accepted things that we all do, and talk a little bit about that, because I don't want people to think shopping is wrong. Just kind of tell us how we reorder that in our lives.
Well, I'm so glad you asked that, because this is what it comes down to for me, Angie. I'm no one's Holy Spirit. And so this is how I approach the book. And I think this is one of the things that I really prayed about, because I talk about a lot of things that the Lord has convicted me of personally in this book.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I would really encourage people to look at is, What do you feel is working for you? Do you feel your life is working for you? This is not about me coming into your space with this book and beating you over the head. First of all, that's not my style. Second of all, I don't have time to do that because the Lord and I have plenty to work on with me. So what this is about is saying, look at your own life. Do you feel like it's complicated? Are you overwhelmed? And if you are, then I want to help you take a look at something that maybe you've not been willing to or even known to look at before. Let's look at it. Let's consider it. And let's put everything on the table, because there's been times that I've not wanted to put certain things on the table. Maybe shopping's one of them. Maybe you would think that would be silly, or maybe you wouldn't want to take a look at it. I'm saying if you truly want a life that is not as complicated, let's not take anything off the table. Let's look at whatever it is. And then at the end of the day, if it's not shopping, fine, great, throw it away. If it's not alcohol, or if it's not Netflix, move on. But let's consider it, because at the end of the day, I want you to get what you want. And I want you to have that vibrant life with God. And I just believe that is going to take us looking at any of it. So shopping is one of those things that might seem inane, but I think there's sometimes this little thing inside that tells us, yeah, I might need to take a look at that. It was interesting. I was at the mall with a girlfriend of mine when I went on the shopping fast. And she said to me she asked me this question. She goes, hey, and it was super casual. She said, how do you know if like you might have a problem with shopping? And the way she asked it, I knew that she knew. And I just think sometimes we just know, we just know.
Wait, she knew that you had a problem, or she knew that she had a problem?
No. She knew she had a problem, but the way she framed it was like, hey, how do you know when you need to go on a shopping fast? It was kind of like that kind of question. And so I think we know, I think we kind of know. Yeah.
Well, and I think too, what you're talking about is it's a practiced act of noticing. And I think you have to be self-aware enough to know, like, why am I spending so much of my time right now looking at anthropology or Free People or
Amazon?
What I do.
I mean,
anything. And you're constantly, and it's a distraction. I mean, it is. That's really what it is, a distraction. It's nothing that you actually need, but you're filling that time. And so when we can be actively aware and notice that, I have to do that.
I think that's so good. And I know there are people watching right now that are thinking, what exactly is a shopping fast? So you just tell us kind of how you did it.
Yeah. Well, basically for me, and I think this should be customizable for people, by the way, if they ever do it, because certain people don't struggle with buying pillows for their house, right? Like they don't, that's not their currency. Maybe they just love power tools. And so like for them, it's avoiding all the online places they could buy power tools. For me, like, boy, that's not a temptation for me, but, so I think, it depends on what your currency is, right? For me, for a whole year, I did not buy anything for my house decor wise, which is a real temptation for me. And I did not buy any personal items for myself in the sense of like clothing, shoes, hats, handbags, whatever. I did buy, you'll be glad to know, like deodorant and things like that, because we're all grateful for that, right? But yeah, so I think you have to pray and sort through what it is that you need to really, abstain from, fast from, if you will. So it really depends on what it is. But for me, that's what it was. Yeah.
I love that. So also in Jesus Over Everything, you talk about one of the things that I think we all struggle with, and it's honesty over hiding. I think it's so much easier for us to hide from some of the hard, true things in our lives than it is to just be honest. So let's talk about that. Give us a practical example of what happened in your life and take us through that.
Honesty over hiding is a very vulnerable chapter for me. It's chapter 7 in the book. I open up talking about a college situation that I had where I was hiding some truth from my parents, and the Lord really prompted me at that time to drive all the way home from college and come clean about some things in my life. And it was it was tough. It was really, really tough.
Mm.
But I got to the point where I wanted to be free more than I wanted anything else.
Yeah.
And
that.
that is really what it comes down to
Mm-hmm.
is how much do you want to be free?
Mhm.
Really, that's what it comes down to with a shopping fast too. You know, if you really look at it,
Mhm.
how much do you want to be free? And I think, you know, the Lord has really prompted me at different times in my life to, and this is going to sound hardcore, but it's really what I've had to get to, hate something enough in the sin category to be willing to let it go.
Mm.
And I think when that sounds abrupt, but when you think of what it's cost you,
Mhm.
I think that is where you get to, because you think it's cost me vibrancy with the Lord. It's cost me my own personal health and well-being. It's cost me guilt. It's
Yeah.
cost me shame. And that for me, I looked at like the secrets that I was hiding, the shame I was feeling, and I hated that. And I hated those secrets, and I hated Satan for taunting me.
Mhm.
And that made me willing to make the drive in the snow at 1 o'clock in the morning and drive and tell my mom the truth.
Yeah.
Because I knew that though that was hard, it would release the chains off of me. And so, you know, I'm sure someone listening understands chains and the freedom that that can bring. And so, only the Lord makes that kind of trip possible, but it's truly changed my life. And so honesty over hiding became, you know, an important anthem in my life at that moment. But one of the things I talk about in that chapter is kind of what you can expect when you decide to be honest and you decide to come out of hiding, because I think it's important for us to know that. Like, expect to feel exposed, expect to want to hide again, because I think we need to face that feeling and understand that you're not going to do it perfectly. You're going to want to cave back in. And so I talk about those things in the chapter.
What would you say to somebody that, you know, not necessarily that they want to stay hidden, but that they just don't know how to come out and share their honesty?
Well, I say to them, I understand. I say to them that they have to get to the point where they want to be free more than they want anything else, because our wants drive us, our needs don't drive us. So I can tell people all day long, listen, you need to come clean.
Yeah.
But until we want it, we won't be willing to do whatever it takes. And I will tell you that I believe Jesus alone gives us the courage to do the hard thing. And I do believe that while I can give 3 steps, and I do give lots of practical tools in the chapter, I do believe that it is the power of God that enables us to do things that we've never thought we could do. I mean, just read the Bible. There are example after example of only in his strength scenarios. And I do believe that's what makes the alcoholic get clean. I do believe that's what makes the sinner like me drive home in the snow. I do believe that that's what allows someone to take a year shopping fast. Nobody can do that themselves. And so it's a Jesus over everything moment and decision.
I think there are people watching who are exhausted from hiding. You know, I think the pretending is exhausting, and the honesty brings such freedom, as you were talking about earlier. There are also people listening who are hiding things for other people, protecting other people. Why do you think that's a tendency in our lives, to protect people close to us and hide their issues?
You know, I think we think that it's love. I think that I think we consider it loyalty. But loyalty at the expense of your soul is really robbery. You rob yourself of not only health, but you rob someone else of what God wants to do in someone else's life. I'm so passionate about this, Angie, and I'm so glad you brought this up, because I will tell you that as I was writing the book, God really, I mean, he just struck me with that whole principle of, like, Lisa, it's not just hiding your own stuff. It's hiding other people's stuff that really, really consumes people. And we do it in the name of love, and we do it in the name of loyalty. but people are actually thwarting my process. I mean, this is the Lord, not me, obviously. People are thwarting his process by standing in the way of the dynamic work that he wants to do in them.
Yeah.
And God forbid that I would do that. God forbid that I would do that. And sometimes we need to get out of the way and let God, let God lay someone bare if need be. And that's hard when we love someone. That's hard when we love a child that is strayed away, when we love a spouse that's not doing the right thing. That rips our soul out. But listen, if we truly believe that God is for us and God has our best interest, that means he's got our child's best interest. That means he's got our parents' best interest, our spouse's best interest. And so we'll get out of the way of what he wants to do. And so hiding someone's secret is not noble. It's not noble. It is not love when there's something that God wants to do in their life.
I love
so
that.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about, well, especially right now with, it just feels like there's so much division, about love over judgment.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in families right now, there's so much judgment. So how can we have love over judgment?
Well, I'll just tell you this from my own experience. I have never seen judgment bring a prodigal home. I have never seen judgment.
Right.
I've never seen judgment win anyone over to the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Now, when I say that, I want people to understand that I'm a woman with very strong convictions. So this is not about watering down standards in any manner. And I think that's what happens is I think people think if I go to this love place, like I'm scared, because listen, let's be honest, society has convoluted a lot of things. They've watered down. They've thrown grace in there. They've thrown love in there as a way to, disregard standard. Please hear me say this. There is a way to love people and hold a strong line with your convictions according to the word of God. And I believe that with all my heart. That is different from judgment in a way that drives people away from the gospel.
I totally agree. I think salt and light is our ultimate call, right? To be salt and light. And my pastor often says, we should be known for what we're for, not for what we're against. And I love that because I think that's just putting love as a top priority. So I want to talk also about your chapter, Commitment Over Mood, because I think that's something we all struggle with. It's just that I don't really feel like it. And I have teenagers. And so this is a struggle often in my house. I'm just going to be honest. This morning, as I was getting up, I had a migraine at 4:30 this morning. But of course, I'm getting up because I have a commitment over how I feel.
Right.
It's a maturity thing, but it goes a lot deeper than that. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Oh, man. Well, I mean, look, every chapter in the book was written because I can relate to it.
Right,
That's
of course, right.
Chapters. Yes, commitment over mood. Commitment is going to be the most important piece moving forward for believers, for leaders, for everything, because if we don't have commitment, we are not going to be able to withstand what is coming in the days ahead. It's always been so, but it will be even more so moving forward. When I think about the famous speech in Deuteronomy 30, it is all about, Moses' address. It's all about choose. This is about choice. It's choice. It's commitment. It's not feelings. It's not mood. And of course, I think what we begin to believe, feelings are an important indicator of something that needs to be checked. So I'm not anti-feelings, but what I am is anti-feelings bossing us.
Yes.
Because if feelings boss us, then we're going to have a lot of problems, and we can already see the problems that has caused. Commitment is what is going to drive us to continue to choose God, follow God to the very end, to our very last breath. And so it just becomes a practice that we have to do every single day. You know,
Yeah.
I talk about how Abraham didn't step into Genesis 22 as a newbie. This is not, this is a commitment, right? This was a commitment choice over and over and over again. And this is what we have to do over and over and over again. And so I think it's super important. It is going to be one of the most important things in our life moving forward. And
Mhm.
by the way, it's not just teens, it's not just students, it's not just the younger generation. Like we, as this generation,
Mhm.
we've got to be about commitment.
Yeah.
We've got to model that, and we've got to do it for ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we let you go, I want to give you a chance to talk about your favorite thing in ministry. You mentioned at the top of the show that you love empowering and inspiring other ministry
Mm.
leaders, and you have a ministry called Creatives. Can you tell us just a little bit about it and what you do and how people can find it?
I do. So this is interesting. I have like two different kind of ministry threads. We have Called Creatives and we have Ministry Strong. And Called Creatives is really to train leaders who want to do ministry, is like, especially writing, speaking, podcasting, some of those kind of ministry areas. Entrepreneurs we have in there. I am partner with Allie Worthington, a friend of mine who's also an author and a speaker. And so we train there on how to kind of do that really well. And then Ministry Strong is another branch that I do with my husband. And that's where we really do restorative ministry and get into a lot of soul care. Because for me, what I feel really called to in my life is not only the training aspect with Called Creatives, but the soul care and restorative piece with Ministry Strong, where we get into the soul piece of it. Because not only should we do it well, right? I believe with Called Creatives, but we also need to be talking about our soul. We need to be talking about boundaries.
So
We need to
important.
be talking about all of these things that are causing us to burn out and leave early. So I have kind of those two different pieces of ministry. They're both very important to me, but Called Creatives is something that I've loved. Been doing it for about a year, and so we take new writers and speakers and podcasters all the time, and try to train them as well as we can.
That's great.
I love that.
So how can people find out more about you, your books, Called Creatives, Jesus Over Everything, but also Ministry Strong? Where can they find all these things?
Everything is at lisawhittle.com, and I
Perfect.
just can't make it any easier for you.
LisaWhittle.com. That's pretty easy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have a final question for you.
Yes. Where are you finding hope these days?
Oh man, I find hope in Romans 5:5. I mean, listen, there is no greater clear-cut message that says he is the hope that will not disappoint. And I find so many things disappointing.
Yeah.
And for me, Romans 5:5 just says, this is where you place your trust. This is where you put all the cards, all your cards. You can put all the eggs in the basket. And I like that. I like that because everything else is quite disappointing. So Romans 5:5, the hope who will not disappoint. That's the only answer that I can give you, honestly.
I love it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, Lisa.
Yeah.
So fun to chat with you. So good to hear your heart around Jesus over everything. You've inspired us today.
Thanks so much for joining us today on Hope Unabridged. We'd like to remind you, if you're watching us on Good Life 45, you can also listen to these episodes everywhere you listen to podcasts.
If you're listening and you'd like to see the filmed version of the show or any of our other shows, check us out on Good Life 45 or on our YouTube channel and our app.
We hope that something you've heard today really blessed you, and we would love for you to share this show with those you love. Just hit that share button on your podcast app or on YouTube and send it to a friend. And we would also love it if you would leave a review. With this program, we are finding hope in the unedited stories of our lives, and we want you to do the same.